I stare at the deep gouges along my Lexus, the sharp scent of vandalized paint curling into the morning heat. Still, I don't speak. Just sip my coffee. While my daughter-in-law laughs from the other side of the fence like it's all a joke. As her voice dances through the air, the metallic sting of betrayal tastes stronger than the coffee on my tongue. While the sun glares off her diamond bracelet, the same hand that held the key, I feel the last thread of silence snap. That's when the patrol cars turn the corner. Her name is already on the report. We're about to begin, but if you'd like, share where you're joining from. It reminds me this story doesn't echo into silence. It lands somewhere real. Drop it in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe. Maggie steps out into the morning air, the heat of the Texas sun already pressing against her skin. She cradles a cup of coffee in one hand, the steam rising in soft spirals as she watches the neighborhood begin to stir. Another perfect day in suburban Austin. The kind of day where everyone pretends that nothing's out of place, that everything is as it should be. Her sneakers crunch against the gravel driveway, and then she sees it. A deep gouge, another. A streak of destruction cutting across the side of her Lexus. The paint is scraped so badly that it's not just a mark, it's an assault. Her breath catches. She feels the blood drain from her face, a heavy coldness settling in her chest. The car isn't just scratched, it's ruined. Maggie's heart thuds, and for a moment she's frozen, trapped in the sickening disbelief of it. The coffee cup feels heavier in her hand, a clumsy anchor to reality. She forces herself to take a breath, to move. Slowly, she walks toward the damage, her footsteps soundless against the driveway's smooth surface. She kneels down, the afternoon sun casting a sharp glare across the white streaks marred into the metal. Her fingers hover just above the gashes. She doesn't dare touch it. Not yet. From the other side of the fence, she hears it. A laugh. The sound of Chloe's voice. Light. Taunting. Guess karma finally caught up, huh? Maggie's gaze lifts, her throat tightening. Chloe stands in the yard, holding her phone up, her face angled toward the screen, a smug grin spreading across her lips as she surveys the scene. It's too much. Too much to pretend she hasn't been waiting for this moment. The satisfaction in Chloe's eyes is too raw, too real. Maggie's fingers curl into the concrete as she tries to push the sting of humiliation aside. Her breath comes in shallow, measured intakes, like she's trying to drown the rising tide of fury that threatens to break free. Ryan's voice follows, reluctant and half-hearted as he emerges from the house, in nothing but a t-shirt and boxer shorts, his hair still messy from sleep. "Drop it, Mom." His voice is thick with discomfort, the plea barely formed. His eyes don't meet hers as he stands there, the tension in his posture more than just the early morning grogginess. Maggie doesn't respond. She keeps her gaze on the scratches, feeling the weight of the humiliation settle on her like a blanket. It's a cruel joke, isn't it? A small part of her thinks this might be the moment where it all unravels, the fragile veneer of civility that had held them together. But not yet. With the gentlest motion, Maggie lowers herself further, her fingertips brushing the paint flakes. Her heart lurches, a hollow, painful beat. This isn't just damage, this is a declaration. Her voice is low, barely a whisper, but it carries the weight of something darker. That wasn't karma, that was cruelty. Chloe's laugh rings out again, a sharp cackle this time. It's almost like she's daring Maggie to say something more, to fight back. Instead, Chloe glances at her phone, making sure the moment is captured for the world to see. A smile flickers on her face as she snaps a selfie, her pose so perfect it's almost too obvious. A trophy. The irony doesn't escape Maggie. In this perfect little neighborhood, with its manicured lawns and carefully hidden resentments, it's Chloe who is the monster. The one who thinks she can do this, and then smile about it like it's nothing. like Maggie's pain is just a joke. She watches Chloe for a moment longer, the resentment building like a slow burn, but she doesn't say anything more. No, it's not time. Not yet. Maggie stands slowly, the coffee cup still tight in her hand. The silence stretches, heavy and suffocating. She holds Chloe's gaze, her expression unreadable. Without another word, she turns and walks back toward the door, her steps slow but purposeful. Inside, the world feels smaller. But in this small space, something is shifting. Something is coming to life behind her calm exterior. She pauses at the door just before she closes it behind her. She exhales softly, a deep, controlled breath. And then, with quiet resolve, she locks the door, sealing herself away from the sun, from the world outside. From Chloe. The last thing she hears is Chloe's voice, drifting over the fence again, but now it's something sharper, a mockery she can no longer pretend she doesn't hear. Better hope you're not next. Maggie doesn't flinch. Instead, she walks deeper into the house, already planning the next step. A flicker of something colder in her chest. This was just the beginning. Inside the house, the cool air hits Maggie's skin like a slap as she steps away from the door, the weight of what just happened still pressing down on her. Her coffee sits forgotten on the counter, cold now. The taste of humiliation lingers in her mouth, but it's fading quickly, replaced by something sharper, colder. Maggie pulls herself together. No more lingering, no more waiting. She walks purposefully into the living room, where her phone lies on the coffee table, untouched since the morning. Her hands feel steady, methodical, as she picks it up. The house is quiet, too quiet, almost suffocatingly so. The silence hums around her like an unspoken question. She opens the security app with practiced ease, the familiar interface glowing back at her. Maggie has always been the type to protect her space, her belongings. Nothing in her home is ever left to chance. It's why she had the cameras installed, why she keeps her records tight, every angle covered, even if the neighborhood looks like the last place anyone would ever need it. The footage pops up, a dull blue-green frame showing the outside of her driveway from one of the cameras mounted by the porch. The timestamp reads 10:17 a.m., just before Chloe's little spectacle. Maggie taps to rewind the footage, the seconds ticking backward in sharp skips. Her pulse begins to rise, the flicker of anticipation mixing with the simmering anger that has settled into her bones. And then, there it is. Chloe, dressed in that same smug, sunlit outfit, the one that made her look like the picture-perfect influencer. Maggie watches her walk toward the car. It's so quiet. Just the scrape of Chloe's shoes on the pavement and the dull hum of the neighborhood. And then Chloe's hand comes into view, gripping the key fob. Maggie's heart hammers in her chest as the woman's wrist flicks. There's a glint, a sparkle, the diamond bracelet. Maggie recognizes it immediately. She's seen it a dozen times before, shining like a mocking crown on Chloe's wrist, every inch of it designed for attention. The bracelet catches the light just as Chloe's hand swings, the key gouging the side of the Lexus with malicious precision. Maggie feels her breath freeze in her throat. It's not just a car anymore. It's a symbol. Something far more personal. That was no accident. No fluke. This was cold, calculated cruelty. She watches Chloe smirk after the damage is done, her face turning just enough for the camera to capture her satisfaction. A moment frozen in time. The evidence is irrefutable. Maggie's fingers hover over the phone screen for a moment, hovering between action and hesitation. She doesn't have the luxury of emotion now, not anymore. This isn't a moment for heartbreak or fury. It's a moment for precision, for clarity. She taps the button to save the footage, selecting both the cloud and the USB option. A mechanical whir is the only sound as it transfers. Each second feels heavier than the last. Each frame feels like a slow burn. The file is there now, the proof, in her hands. Solid, unassailable evidence. Maggie stands, setting the phone down carefully as she exhales, a sharp, deep breath that rattles in her chest. She's not shaking. Not anymore. She feels a strange calmness rising inside her, like a new skin settling over her. Hurt is too messy to focus on right now. Revenge, she knows, requires cool, methodical precision. And right now, she's building the case. The decision has already been made. She grabs the phone again, swiping to find Officer Dana Ruiz's number in her contacts. Ruiz had helped Maggie once before, a few years ago, when some punks had broken into a neighbor's garage. The officer had been calm, efficient, and more importantly, she didn't treat Maggie like some overreacting suburban mom. She understood. The phone rings once, twice. "Officer Ruiz," a calm voice answers. "Maggie Sloan," she replies, her tone even. "I need you to come over. I have something you'll want to see in person." There's a slight pause. The edge in Maggie's voice doesn't go unnoticed. "Everything all right, Maggie?" Ruiz asks, sounding almost concerned. "I'll explain when you get here," Maggie says, her voice colder than she intends. "I'm sending you the footage. You need to come today." Another pause. And then, Ruiz speaks again, softer this time. "All right, I'll be there this afternoon. Stay safe." Maggie hangs up without another word. She stares at the screen of the phone for a moment, almost as if waiting for something to happen. Waiting for the world to shift under the weight of what she's about to do. She's done the right thing, hasn't she? The evidence is there. The path is clear. But deep down, Maggie knows it's more than just a matter of justice. It's a reckoning, and she's already walking into it. Her phone buzzes. A message from Ryan. "Mom, please drop this. It's just a car." She doesn't respond. Instead, Maggie walks toward the window and pulls back the blinds. She looks out at the backyard, where Chloe's now gone back inside, leaving behind the echo of her laughter. The neighborhood still looks the same, perfect and unbothered. But Maggie feels the shift. It's as though the sun's gotten just a little hotter, the shadows a little longer. The waiting begins now. The evidence is in motion. And she's done waiting for apologies. Maggie steps away from the window, exhaling as she turns off the lights and prepares for what comes next. This was only the beginning. The dining room is warm, the air thick with the scent of roasted chicken and baked potatoes, a picture of suburban normalcy. Maggie sits at the head of the table, her posture straight, a hand resting lightly on the edge of her plate. The table is set with care, everything just so. As if dinner is supposed to be some balm for the tension that has been building in her chest all day. But it's not. Chloe, sitting at the far end, is playing the role of the perfect daughter-in-law with a practiced smile. Her hair is neatly styled, her blouse pressed, the silver bracelet still gleaming on her wrist. She holds a fork delicately between her fingers, spearing a bite of chicken as if she doesn't have a care in the world. The facade is flawless, but Maggie can feel the weight of the charade in the air, the truth just under the surface. Ryan sits between them, fidgeting with his napkin, his brow furrowed. He looks exhausted, caught in the middle of something he doesn't understand, or doesn't want to. Maggie catches his eye, and he quickly looks away, the unspoken plea there. The one that asks her to pretend, to act like everything is normal, like they're still a family. But Maggie can't do that anymore. Not now. She takes a deep breath, sets her fork down with a soft click against the plate, and turns her attention to Chloe. "Did you see my car today?" Maggie's voice is steady, but it carries the weight of everything she's been holding in since the moment she stepped outside this morning. Chloe looks up, the smile never quite leaving her lips. It's the kind of smile that's too wide, too rehearsed. She tilts her head slightly, her eyes flashing with something unreadable. Maybe you scratched it yourself, she says with a casual shrug, as if this is all just another inconvenience. Another thing to shrug off. Maggie doesn't flinch. She doesn't react to the lie, not immediately. She lets it hang in the air, heavy and pregnant with meaning. For a second, the room feels colder. The sound of clinking silverware fades into the background, and all Maggie can hear is the quiet pulse of her heartbeat, the rage simmering beneath her calm exterior. Ryan shifts in his seat, his face tightening. "Let's not fight," he mutters, his voice low and anxious. He looks back and forth between his mother and his wife, like he's waiting for the storm to pass, the words to be swallowed whole. But Maggie doesn't look at him. She reaches for her phone instead, sliding it across the table toward Chloe. It's deliberate, controlled. She doesn't need to say anything more. Chloe frowns, her gaze flickering down at the phone. Maggie taps the screen, and the video begins to play. The room goes still. The video is silent at first, just a recording of Chloe walking toward the Lexus, the brightness of the morning sun glinting off her diamond bracelet. The sound of the key scraping across metal is the only noise as the footage plays out. The gouges, the damage. Chloe's smirk. The world seems to close in on Chloe's face as she watches the footage. Her breath catches in her throat, and her color drains, leaving her face pale and stiff. The smug confidence that had been there a moment ago is gone, replaced by something closer to panic. She glances up at Maggie, and for the first time, the mask cracks. "You can't," Chloe starts, but the words stall, caught somewhere between disbelief and anger. She glares down at the phone, as if she can somehow will the evidence away. Ryan's eyes widen, his gaze darting between his wife and his mother. The tension in the room tightens, palpable and suffocating. "Mom. Mom, what are you doing?" His voice is a mixture of concern and confusion, his discomfort bubbling over. This is crazy. She didn't." Maggie's gaze never leaves Chloe. She leans forward slightly, her voice calm, too calm, like a blade slicing through the tension. "I'll give you 12 hours to do the right thing." Her words are measured, deliberate, each one landing with the precision of a hammer striking its mark. Chloe's jaw tightens, her fingers gripping the edge of her glass so hard Maggie can see the white knuckles. "You—" She stops herself, swallowing hard, and then laughs. It's a brittle, high-pitched sound, more desperate than confident. "You really think this is going to work? You think I'll just—" Her voice falters again, like she's lost the thread of her own narrative. Ryan's eyes flicker to his wife, then back to Maggie, his hands clenched in his lap. His discomfort has shifted into something more like panic. "Mom," he says again, his voice cracking. "This is insane. You're going to ruin everything. Just let it go." Maggie doesn't respond to Ryan. She doesn't need to. Her eyes are fixed on Chloe, who now looks like she's struggling to hold herself together. Her perfect little world is crumbling, and Maggie can see it, feel it in the way Chloe's posture shifts, the way her breath quickens. The silence that follows is thick, heavy. Maggie's words hang in the air between them, unyielding. The power has shifted now, and she knows it. Chloe opens her mouth to speak again, but no words come out. Instead, she just stares at Maggie, a mix of fury and fear clouding her expression. Maggie stands up, her chair scraping sharply against the floor, the sudden movement making Chloe jump. She doesn't look at Ryan, doesn't look at anyone else. She turns and walks toward the door, her back straight, her steps firm. "Your 12 hours start now," she says over her shoulder, her voice barely a whisper. As Maggie leaves the room, she can feel the weight of the silence pressing down on the house, the tension between them sharper than any knife. She knows this confrontation isn't over. It's just beginning. and Chloe has no idea what's coming next. The clock on the wall ticks quietly as Maggie sits in her living room, the house still and silent. Her gaze is fixed on the small red numbers of the microwave, counting down the minutes. It's almost 12 hours exactly since she told Chloe she had until midnight to make things right. Maggie had expected something. An apology, a phone call, even a text. But the hours have passed, and all she's gotten is silence. Ryan's voice still echoes in her mind, a reminder of the conflict that stirs beneath the surface of this broken family. He had begged her to let it go, to smooth over the damage and pretend everything was fine. But Maggie can't pretend anymore. Not after this. She grabs her purse from the counter, the straps digging into her fingers as she loops them over her shoulder. The car keys are already in her hand, the cold metal a reminder that this step, the next one, can't be taken back. The time for waiting is over. Maggie's Lexus sits in the driveway, the scratches still visible, the damage done but not forgotten. She glances at it for just a moment before sliding into the driver's seat. The engine hums to life, the sound steady and familiar. But today, it feels like the beginning of something else. A shift in the air, a turning point. The drive to the precinct is long, each mile a countdown in her mind. The familiar streets of suburban Austin blur past, but Maggie's focus is sharp. This is business now. No room for emotion, no room for regrets. She pulls into the parking lot, the harsh light of the precinct casting long shadows across the cracked asphalt. The building looms in front of her, cold and official. Maggie takes a breath as she steps out of the car, the cool night air biting at her skin. She glances down at the envelope in her hand, the one containing the video. The evidence. It feels heavier now, like the weight of the decision she's made is settling in. Inside, the precinct is a familiar chaos. Officers move in and out of the front desk area, the hum of phones and the scrape of paperwork filling the air. But Maggie walks straight to the back, where Officer Dana Ruiz is already waiting for her. Ruiz is calm, the kind of woman who makes her presence known without needing to raise her voice. Maggie is grateful for that now. Maggie. Ruiz greets her with a nod, her eyes flicking to the envelope in Maggie's hand. You got something for me? Maggie wordlessly hands over the USB drive. Ruiz takes it without hesitation, her fingers brushing over the surface before she slips it into her computer. The screen flickers to life, showing the footage. Chloe's movements, the gleam of the bracelet, the way her hand swings and gouges the paint. Maggie watches, her jaw tightening. Ruiz glances at Maggie. This is clear vandalism. She'll be cited. Her voice is matter of fact, like it's another case, another criminal act. But there's something in her gaze, a quiet understanding. Maggie doesn't immediately respond. Her mind is running through the possibilities, calculating the next move. This wasn't just about a car. It was about respect. About dignity. About setting a precedent that no one, not even family, gets away with this kind of cruelty. But Ruiz's words bring her back to the reality of the situation, the cold, hard facts of what she's dealing with. She's family, Maggie says quietly, the words tasting strange as they leave her mouth. Ruiz's expression hardens just slightly, the edge of her professionalism slipping into something more personal. She stopped being family when she laughed. Maggie feels that line cut through her like a blade. It's true. That moment, that laughter, had severed something inside Maggie, the final shred of loyalty to a daughter-in-law who had betrayed her. Reports filed, Ruiz continues, breaking the silence. She turns to her computer, clicking through the files with practiced ease. Chloe Sloan is listed as a suspect. We'll move forward with the citation, but... She pauses, looking up from the screen. There's more. This could escalate. Maggie nods, already knowing what that means. The sirens, the calls, the humiliation that would come next. She feels a tightness in her chest, but it's not fear. Not anymore. It's anticipation. The kind of certainty that comes when you've already decided what needs to be done. Anything else? Maggie asks, her voice steady. Ruiz looks at her for a moment, then sighs. You've already got the ball rolling. She won't get away with this. Not now. Maggie exhales, finally feeling the weight of the last 12 hours lift slightly. The pieces are in motion. There's no turning back now. She steps away from the desk, her heart still steady, but with a sense of purpose settling deeper into her chest. The call had never come. The apology never arrived. And now, things would happen on her terms. Maggie walks back toward the door, the click of her heels echoing through the empty hallway. The quiet buzz of the precinct humming in the background. She feels the adrenaline start to build, a storm that's been brewing all day. As she reaches the door, the sound of sirens suddenly cuts through the night air, distant but growing louder. The game has changed. Chloe has no idea what's coming next. And Maggie? She's already 10 steps ahead. The morning sun pours through the curtains, painting the living room in soft hues of gold. Maggie sits on her porch, the swing beneath her creaking gently as she sips her coffee, the coolness of the mug grounding her in the moment. It's quiet, too quiet for what's coming next. She has already heard the hum of neighborhood gossip stir in the distance. The HOA brunch is just a few houses down. Maggie knows Chloe will be there, her usual self, weaving stories for her followers, playing the part of the charming, misunderstood daughter-in-law. Today, however, Maggie has no intention of letting her get away with it. Maggie looks down the street, watching the neighbors begin to gather. The routine is familiar. The chatter, the smiles, the pretensions of suburban life. And there, in the middle of it all, stands Chloe, draped in a sundress, her smile wide and polished, the kind of smile that's supposed to make the world forget her latest crime. Chloe is deep in conversation with Marge, her hands fluttering as she speaks, the silver bracelet on her wrist catching the sunlight like a badge. Maggie's eyes narrow slightly. But there's no anger in her gaze, only cold, calculated focus. This is where it happens. Chloe's voice floats on the breeze as Maggie watches her, words that ring out a little too loudly. Honestly, Maggie's just overreacting. It's just a car, right? Chloe laughs, the sound too shrill, too hollow to be real. Maggie doesn't react, doesn't move. She watches as Chloe continues to spin her version of events, unaware that the net is tightening. Then, out of nowhere, the sound of engines rumbles through the street. A deep, unmistakable hum. Maggie's gaze shifts. She sees the two patrol cars, their sirens off, but their presence unmistakable as they roll slowly up the block, one after the other. The noise seems to fill the street, cutting through the chatter like a knife. Neighbors start to look up, murmurs passing from one to the next, heads swiveling toward the approaching cars. Maggie stands, her feet barely making a sound as she rises from the swing. She knows the moment has come, but she doesn't rush. There's no need. The stage is already set. The patrol cars come to a stop in front of Chloe, the engines cutting off with a finality that seems to hang in the air. Officer Ruiz steps out of the first car, her posture steady and sure, like she's done this 100 times before. But today, there's a different edge to her, the kind that comes from knowing the punchline is about to land. "Chloe Sloan?" Ruiz calls out, her voice calm but unyielding. Chloe freezes, mid-laugh, her words dying on her lips. Her eyes flick from Ruiz to the other officer, then back again. She blinks. Then it happens. Her face goes pale, the color draining from her cheeks as the reality of the moment sets in. Her mouth opens, but the words are barely a whisper. "You didn't." Maggie's eyes narrow, and for a brief moment she allows herself to savor the sight of Chloe's panic, the way the mask of control slips, revealing the fear underneath. Chloe stumbles backward, her expression faltering. She doesn't expect this. Not here. Not now. But Maggie, standing tall on her porch, has already taken the first step toward reclaiming what was stolen from her. Chloe's gaze flicks to the neighbors, the phones already raised, capturing the spectacle. The laughter, the sneers, the whispers, all of it caught in real time. She knows the power of social media. She knows what happens when the wrong image goes viral. Maggie stands still, the quiet weight of the moment settling over her. She could walk inside now, turn her back, and let Chloe crumble in the face of her own mess. But Maggie remains on the porch, calm, composed, her face unreadable. Her thoughts are steady. This isn't about spectacle. This is about justice. The unmistakable sound of handcuffs clicking into place fills the silence. Chloe flinches, her body going rigid as the officer secures her wrists. The sound of the metal against her skin rings out, the weight of it settling over the street like a shroud. The neighbors gasp, some muttering under their breath, some more openly shocked. Phones click in a flurry of motion, each capture immortalizing Chloe's humiliation in real time. Chloe's breath comes in shallow gasps as the officers guide her toward the patrol car, her eyes wild with disbelief. She opens her mouth, but no words come out. All the stories she's told, all the charm and manipulation, have turned to dust in front of an audience she never thought would turn on her. Maggie watches the scene unfold from her porch, her expression a mixture of quiet triumph and cold resolve. She doesn't let the weight of the moment break her composure. Instead, she turns slightly, stepping back inside. But just before she disappears into the house, she murmurs softly, the words almost lost to the wind, but not quite. Now we're even. The door clicks shut behind her, the finality of it echoing through the house as the chaos outside continues to unfold. Maggie doesn't need to look back. She knows what's happening out there. Chloe's world is unraveling, and Maggie is the one holding the threads. The weight of the revenge is sharp, but it tastes more like victory now. And for Chloe, it's only just begun. The phone buzzes on the kitchen counter, vibrating against the wood as if it knows what's coming. Maggie doesn't look at it. She's been expecting this, bracing for the fallout that will inevitably follow. She pours herself another glass of water, the coolness of it a stark contrast to the heat that simmers beneath her skin. Her hands are steady as she places the glass down. Everything feels strangely calm, too calm. The door slams open with force, and Ryan storms into the house, his face twisted with a mixture of anger and disbelief. His shirt is wrinkled, his hair uncombed, and the tension in his body is palpable. He's been stewing on this, no doubt, ever since the arrest. You humiliated her. Ryan's voice is thick with fury, but there's something else behind it. Something more desperate. His need to fix this, to make it go away. Maggie doesn't flinch. She's been through this before. She's heard the demands, the excuses. This isn't the first time he's tried to shield Chloe from consequences. Humiliated? Maggie repeats, her voice cool, calm. She doesn't even look up as she slides her hands across the counter, clearing a few crumbs as if the conversation doesn't matter. No, Ryan. She filmed herself doing that. He steps closer, his fists clenched at his sides, but his voice trembles with emotion. It's just a car, Mom. You're taking this too far. You're making this a public spectacle. She's my wife. And she keyed my car, Maggie says, the words sharp but controlled. She humiliated me first. You want me to pretend it never happened? That everything is fine? I won't do that. Ryan opens his mouth, then closes it, the weight of her words sinking in. But it doesn't stop him. I'll make her apologize. He spits. his voice rising now. But you have to drop the charges, it's a mistake. We're family, for God's sake. Maggie doesn't respond immediately. She takes a long breath, considering him, the silence stretching between them like a taut wire. When she speaks again, her voice is low, measured. I've already made my decision, Ryan. I'm not going back on it. She doesn't get to walk away without consequences. Not this time. Ryan's face twists in anger, his eyes filled with a mix of frustration and hurt. You're tearing this family apart. His voice cracks slightly, but it's the guilt that makes it sting. Chloe, his wife, the woman he's defended so many times before, is now caught in something too big to fix with just words. His loyalty is torn, but his desperation is greater. Maggie meets his gaze without flinching. She's the one who tore this family apart. Ryan's jaw clenches, but he says nothing. He turns and walks out of the kitchen, his footsteps heavy, each one a sign of his resignation. Maggie watches him leave, the air still, thick with the weight of what has passed between them. But that's not the end of it. Maggie hears the faint ding of a notification on her phone. She reaches for it, her fingers moving slowly, deliberately. The screen is flooded with messages, comments, shares, likes. The footage of Chloe's arrest has gone viral. Her eyes skim over the posts, the cruel laughter in the comments, the judgment. Chloe's brand, her carefully constructed image, is already crumbling in front of a public that had once adored her. The more Maggie scrolls, the clearer it becomes. Chloe is no longer a flawless influencer, she's a cautionary tale. The audience has turned on her, the narrative now shifted to one of shame and reckoning. She can't help the flicker of satisfaction that passes through her chest. Chloe's world is unraveling, and Maggie is the one holding the strings. There's another ping. A message from Officer Ruiz. Maggie taps it open, her brow furrowing as she reads. Prepare for backlash. This will get worse before it gets better. Maggie leans back against the counter, reading the message again, her thoughts flickering to the unfolding storm. She knew it would come. Social media makes sure of that. The whispers, the trolling, the hate. It's all part of the process when someone like Chloe falls from grace. Maggie sighs, pushing her hair back from her face. I've weathered worse storms, she mutters to herself, her voice steady. This was nothing. Nothing compared to what she'd survived before. The petty gossip, the endless whispers from people who didn't understand the kind of betrayal she'd been through. She turns away from the phone, the weight of what's to come pressing against her chest. The storm is coming, but Maggie is ready. She's always been ready. She walks to the window, peering through the blinds just in time to see a group of neighbors clustered around the corner, phones in hand, gossiping and whispering like vultures. Maggie's lips curve into a thin, tight smile. Let them talk. Let them say what they want. It doesn't matter. What matters now is justice. What matters is that she made the right choice. Chloe might have been the one to set this fire, but Maggie's the one holding the match. The front door opens again, and Ryan's voice echoes in the hallway, a sound of defeat. You can't control this anymore, Mom. Maggie doesn't turn around. She's already stepped back into her strength. No, Ryan, this time, it's out of my hands. The fallout has only just begun. The moment Maggie steps out of the kitchen, she knows something is off. The air feels thick, charged with an undercurrent of tension that she can't quite place. The phone buzzing on the counter was just the beginning. She's already bracing herself for the backlash, but nothing prepares her for what comes next. The doorbell rings sharply, breaking the silence. Maggie hesitates, taking one last breath before she opens it. Standing on the porch is Officer Ruiz, her face impassive but tinged with concern. Maggie, she begins, her voice steady. We've got a problem. Maggie raises an eyebrow, the familiar weight of unease settling back into her chest. What's going on? Ruiz pulls out a piece of paper, handing it over without a word. Maggie reads the first few lines, the blood draining from her face. It's a counterclaim. Chloe's filing a formal accusation, claiming that Maggie attacked her during the confrontation over the car. The words unprovoked assault jump off the page, followed by a description of Chloe's visible injuries and emotional distress. Maggie feels her stomach drop as she rereads the document, disbelief clouding her thoughts. "This is insane," she mutters, her voice thin. She knows it's a lie, knows Chloe is trying to turn the tables, but the damage is already being done. "She's lying, isn't she?" Maggie asks, lifting her gaze to Ruiz, searching for reassurance. Ruiz hesitates for only a moment, then nods. "It's a bold move on her part," she says, almost admiring the audacity. "But we've got evidence. The cameras, the security footage, it's all on your side." Chloe's claims don't hold up. Relief surges through Maggie, but it's fleeting. The storm is far from over. Will it go to court? "It's already under investigation," Ruiz replies. "But given the evidence, I don't see this going anywhere." Maggie exhales slowly, but the worry still gnaws at her. "I don't care about court," she says, more to herself than to Ruiz. "I care about my family. I care about what Ryan's going to think when he finds out." Ruiz gives a curt nod. "You'll be fine, Maggie. Just hang tight. This will blow over." She glances at her watch and gives Maggie a reassuring smile before turning toward the door. "I'll check in when I can." But as Ruiz walks away, Maggie can't shake the feeling that this isn't over, not by a long shot. Later that day, Maggie sits in her living room, a blanket of silence over the house as she scrolls through her phone. The comment sections are a battlefield. Trolls, sympathizers, the occasional "you go girl" in Chloe's favor. But Maggie's attention is elsewhere, on the string of messages from a lawyer she doesn't recognize. Beth Nolan. Pro bono. Maggie swipes the screen, reading the brief message. "Saw the footage. I'll take your case. We'll win this." Maggie's heart skips. A pro bono lawyer. The kind she never expected to need. She quickly dials the number, the phone ringing through with a steady beep. A click. Then Beth's voice. "Hello? Maggie Sloan here. You messaged me about the case," she says, trying to keep her voice steady. "I'm interested, but I need to know what you saw, what I'm looking at here." Beth's voice is calm, composed. "I've seen the video. Chloe made a huge mistake. You have the upper hand." Maggie leans back, exhaling sharply. "She's lying, trying to make me the villain." "Yeah," Beth agrees, a slight edge of amusement in her voice. "But she's not going to get away with it. I've been in this game long enough to know when someone's trying to manipulate the system, and she's doing just that." Maggie shakes her head, not out of frustration, but because the enormity of the situation is just beginning to sink in. "Maybe I went too far," she admits quietly. "I wasn't thinking about all this. I was just so angry." Beth's response is swift and firm. Justice feels like guilt before it feels like peace. Her words land with the force of someone who's seen this cycle before. "We'll make sure you're not the one paying for Chloe's mistakes. Trust me, Maggie." For a moment, Maggie just listens to the steady pulse of the phone line. There's comfort in Beth's certainty, but a gnawing doubt still lingers, one Maggie can't shake. She feels the weight of what she's about to enter. A courtroom battle where the lines between family and justice blur. The door opens and Ryan steps into the room, his face still tight with frustration. He glances at the phone in Maggie's hand, his voice low, almost accusatory. "You've really gone through with this, haven't you?" His words aren't a question, they're an accusation. Maggie sets the phone down slowly, her gaze locking with his. "I had to, Ryan." Ryan doesn't respond immediately. Instead, he walks toward the window, staring out at the quiet street. Maggie watches him, waiting for the anger to flare, for the disappointment to sink in. But he just stands there, silent, as if he's trying to process what this all means. I don't know what's going to happen next, Maggie says, her voice softer now. But I know I'm doing the right thing. Ryan looks at her over his shoulder, his face unreadable. It doesn't feel right. Maggie steps forward, her heart heavy but resolute. I know. But sometimes, doing the right thing doesn't feel good. Not at first. The silence stretches between them, both of them standing on opposite sides of a chasm that's only grown wider since Chloe's arrest. Maggie's throat tightens as she feels the weight of it all, the choices, the fallout, the family she might never get back. But she can't turn back. Not now. And Chloe? Chloe's only just begun to feel the consequences. The courtroom is cold, the air thick with tension. Maggie sits in the front row, her back straight, her hands folded neatly in her lap. She doesn't look at Ryan, who sits a few rows behind her, his presence a distant weight in the room. His silence feels louder than anything he could say, and the absence of his support hangs between them like a thick fog. The judge is seated at the bench, a stern figure whose eyes seem to slice through the room. Maggie doesn't focus on him. Instead, she watches Chloe, her former daughter-in-law, sitting at the defendant's table. Chloe's once flawless image is now tarnished. She's dressed in a conservative suit, her hair neatly pulled back, but the sharpness in her eyes, the desperate, nervous energy, is unmistakable. She keeps stealing glances at Maggie, but Maggie doesn't flinch. She's here for a reason. She won't let Chloe's theatrics distract her now. Chloe's attorney, a slick man with an expensive suit and a rehearsed smile, rises to his feet. He walks with purpose, taking his position to address the court, and Maggie feels the immediate shift in the room. His voice is smooth, designed to charm, to persuade. The plaintiff, Mrs. Sloane, is nothing more than a vindictive elder, acting out of jealousy and personal resentment. The attorney begins, his voice dripping with condescension. My client is a young woman who has been unjustly targeted by someone with an axe to grind. There's no evidence to suggest that she maliciously vandalized Mrs. Sloane's property. Rather, this is an attack based on a long-standing family conflict. We believe Mrs. Sloane's motivations here are entirely personal. The attorney's words land like sharp jabs, but Maggie doesn't react. She's learned to keep her face impassive, to protect the core of her emotions. The idea of her being portrayed as a vindictive old woman stings, but she doesn't let it show. Instead, her mind focuses on one thing: what's next? She's already planned every move. She's not going to let Chloe's lawyer rewrite this story. Not when the truth is staring them all in the face. Officer Ruiz rises to testify. Maggie feels a flicker of relief, though it's tempered by the weight of what's coming. Ruiz steps into the witness stand, her posture solid, her expression steady. She looks every inch the professional she is, and Maggie knows that Ruiz's testimony will be the turning point. Officer Ruiz, can you confirm the authenticity of the security footage submitted into evidence? The attorney asks. Absolutely, Ruiz replies, her voice clear and unwavering. The footage is from Mrs. P.C. Sloane's security cameras, and it shows the defendant, Ms. Sloane, intentionally damaging the vehicle with a key. I reviewed it myself. There is no question about the validity of the footage. Chloe's attorney presses on, trying to discredit Ruiz's statement, but Ruiz remains calm, each response sharper than the last. Maggie can feel the momentum shifting. Ruiz's professionalism, her steadfast refusal to be swayed, is like a shield around Maggie. It's impossible to argue with cold, hard evidence. Then, the unexpected happens. Craig, The neighbor who had captured even more footage from his porch stands up and steps into the witness box. He's a tall, unassuming man, his eyes avoiding the gaze of everyone in the room except the judge. When asked to provide his testimony, he explains how he witnessed the event unfold in full and recorded it, showing Chloe's smirk as she vandalized the car. His footage corroborates everything Ruiz testified to and then some. He even describes how Chloe had laughed afterward, almost as if mocking Maggie's distress. Maggie watches Chloe's face as Craig speaks. The smirk that Chloe had worn so confidently in the courtroom fades, replaced by a thin line of fear. Her eyes flick from Craig to the judge and then to Maggie, but Maggie doesn't give her the satisfaction of a response. She's done looking at Chloe as if she matters anymore. The evidence is undeniable now. The footage speaks for itself. The judge leans back in his chair, taking a moment to deliberate. The room feels still, too still, as the weight of the moment presses down on everyone. The judge clears his throat, his voice carrying authority as he announces the verdict. Based on the evidence provided, the judge says, the defendant is found guilty of vandalism. Full restitution will be required to cover the damages to Mrs. Sloane's property. In addition, Mrs. Sloane will serve community service hours. Sentencing will be finalized at a later date. A sense of relief washes over Maggie, but it's fleeting. Her victory is legal, but it feels hollow. She's won, yes, but the victory tastes like ash. Chloe's brand is in ruins, and that means something to Maggie. But the damage to her family, the rift between her and Ryan, it's still there, still raw, still unhealed. Maggie rises from her seat, her legs momentarily weak beneath her as she gathers her things. She meets Ryan's eyes across the room, but he looks away. He doesn't speak to her, doesn't offer any acknowledgement. The space between them feels endless, as if every moment in this courtroom has driven them farther apart. Maggie steps out of the courtroom, the weight of the victory sinking in slowly. She should feel triumphant, but there's only a quiet emptiness, a sense of finality that isn't as sweet as she expected. The battle isn't over. It's only just begun. But for now, at least the truth is on her side. As she steps into the hall, she can hear the faint buzz of her phone. More messages, more comments. She swipes the screen absent-mindedly, the flood of notifications a reminder that the world has already moved on to the next story. But for Maggie, the real fight has always been about something more personal. And that's where she's going to need to find her strength now. Her victory, it turns out, is only temporary. And that, too, is part of the journey. Maggie stares at the bank statement on her phone, the numbers glaring back at her in black and white. She's read it 3 times now, but it doesn't change. A transfer, significant, unsettling, gone through earlier that morning. It's a sizable sum, one she knows she didn't authorize. Her heart sinks, the chill of betrayal crawling up her spine. She taps the screen again, the numbers rearranging themselves before her eyes, but they all tell the same story. The payment. To the same place Chloe had been fined. The same amount that Maggie's been told by the court to collect as restitution. Ryan's doing. The realization hits like a physical blow. Her hand grips the counter tightly, her knuckles white. The room spins, but Maggie holds herself steady. She takes a breath, and then another, forcing herself not to panic, to think clearly. She grabs her jacket and heads for the door, her footsteps loud against the floorboards, each one a deliberate move toward confrontation. She can't breathe without confronting this. She can't pretend everything's fine anymore. Ryan's car is in the driveway, parked at an angle like he's been home for a while. She can see his shadow through the window, moving around inside. The calm before the storm. Maggie steps inside, her eyes searching the kitchen before landing on him. He's standing by the counter, the same posture she's grown familiar with. Slumped, lost, as if nothing matters anymore. Ryan. she says, her voice sharper than she expects. He doesn't turn around immediately. She can feel his awareness of her presence growing, his instinctive avoidance just as tangible as the air between them. Finally, he faces her. His expression is guarded, and for a split second Maggie catches a flicker of guilt before he masks it with frustration. "What's going on, Mom?" he asks, his tone defensive, like he's already expecting an argument. "I'm trying to fix things." Maggie doesn't wait. She holds up the phone, the bank statement visible between them. "Fix things?" she repeats. "You're stealing to protect the one who destroyed me." Ryan's face hardens as he glances at the screen, but it's too late. The truth is already hanging in the air. "What did you think would happen?" she demands, her voice rising now. "You thought you could use our money to cover Chloe's fines? After everything she's done?" Ryan clenches his jaw, his body stiffening. "I didn't steal anything, Mom. It's just a loan, a way to help her through this. She's my wife, for God's sake. She needs my support." Maggie's eyes narrow, the weight of his words like a hammer against her ribs. "A loan? A way to help her through this?" Her voice falters briefly, but she forces it steady. "She's not the victim here, Ryan. She's the one who keyed my car. She's the one who humiliated me. And now you're making excuses for her?" Ryan's frustration erupts, his voice rising in anger. "Family doesn't call cops, Mom." The words fly out like a slap. "Family doesn't drag their own through the mud for something so trivial. You're ruining everything over a stupid car." Maggie feels the sting of his words, but they don't break her. She steps closer, not backing down, not letting him control the narrative anymore. "Family doesn't key cars, Ryan," she responds, her voice low but cutting. "Family doesn't destroy each other, and then pretend it didn't happen. What you're doing now is protecting someone who has hurt me. You're making me out to be the villain when I'm the one who's been wronged." Ryan stands there for a moment, breathing heavily, his eyes searching her face as if he's still trying to find some way to justify what he's done. "I'm just trying to protect us," he says quietly, the anger draining from his voice as quickly as it came. Maggie's heart sinks, the reality of the betrayal crashing over her in waves. She's not going to change his mind. She's not going to be the one to fix this. This is no longer about healing. This is about standing her ground. "I don't need your protection, Ryan," she says softly. "I never have. Not like this." The silence hangs between them, thick and suffocating. Maggie feels the weight of the years of sacrifices, of hopes, of silent disappointments, all unraveling at once. She turns, walking back toward the hallway, her footsteps slow and deliberate. "I'm closing all our shared accounts," she says, her voice quiet but final. "We're done with this. You've made your choice. I'm making mine." Ryan doesn't respond, and Maggie knows he's not going to. She can feel him standing there, the tension thick, the fractured space between them growing wider with every second. She can't afford to let it drag on any longer. She opens the drawer where the paperwork is stored, pulling out the documents she'd kept for months. The power of attorney papers. She holds them in her hands, feeling the weight of the decision as she glances at them for the last time. Maggie picks up the pen and signs them, the strokes deliberate, as final as the silence in the house. She places the papers down, the action heavy with significance. Noah, the attorney from before, will now have her full trust. Not Ryan, not Chloe. "Done," she whispers, her voice hoarse. Her hands shake, but she doesn't let it stop her. The storm is only just beginning, but Maggie is no longer afraid. The foundation of her family may be shattered, but she is done making excuses for those who failed her. And when she walks away from this, she'll do it on her own terms. As she stands up and walks toward the door, she knows this is the moment where everything changes. The rupture is permanent, and there's no going back now. The days blur into one another. a quiet hum of solitude settling over Maggie's house. She's grown used to the silence. It's like the house itself is holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. But Maggie has made peace with the stillness. The noise, the conflict, the betrayal. All of it feels distant now, like a storm that's passed but left a lingering chill. Weeks have passed since the court hearing, and the house is eerily calm. The heavy air of anger and disappointment has been replaced with something softer, emptier. Maggie's routine has become a simple rhythm. Mornings spent at her small kitchen table with coffee and silence, afternoons organizing the things that have been left behind, nights spent in front of the TV with a book or an old movie. She no longer feels the need to fill the silence with thoughts of Ryan or Chloe. They've faded into the background, like echoes of a life she no longer recognizes. The car, though, her Lexus, is another story. It's the one piece of the past that still holds its weight in her life. She hasn't driven it much since the damage, hasn't even touched it. But today, something has shifted. Today, she decides to make it whole again. Maggie walks outside, her gaze falling on the Lexus in the driveway. The scratches are still there, reminders of the betrayal. But today, they feel more like ghosts than wounds. She runs her hand over the surface, cool to the touch, and for a moment, she just stands there, breathing in the quiet. Later that afternoon, Maggie takes the car to a local body shop. The work is done quietly, almost reverently, as the technicians strip away the old paint and apply a fresh coat. The new license plate, Dignity, is installed carefully, as if the mechanic understands that this isn't just a car anymore. It's a statement. When Maggie returns home, the Lexus gleams in the driveway, the bright new paint reflecting the afternoon sun. She stands in front of it, hands on her hips, looking at the transformation. The car is no longer a reminder of humiliation. It's a symbol of the restoration she's found in herself. The neighbors have been watching. They always do in a place like this. Maggie doesn't mind. They watch when you rise, when you fall, when you fight. And they've been watching her. They've seen her strength, her quiet resolve. Some nod when they pass her, a slight acknowledgement of her fortitude, but no one speaks to her directly. The truth is, no one knows what to say. One afternoon, Officer Ruiz stops by. She's wearing her uniform, but the soft smile on her face makes her look almost like a friend, not just an officer. She leans against the porch railing, her gaze flicking to the car before meeting Maggie's eyes. "They're moving out?" Ruiz asks, her tone gentle but knowing. Maggie looks over at the house. The door to Chloe and Ryan's place is still open, but there's no sign of movement. The space feels empty now, a void where family once was. "Soon," Maggie replies quietly. Ruiz steps a little closer, as if understanding the weight behind Maggie's words. "I heard about the community service," she says, her voice lowering. "People talk. She's not going to recover from this." Maggie doesn't flinch, doesn't respond. Instead, she looks at the driveway again, the gleaming car now a metaphor for everything she's been through. "I didn't want the spectacle," she says, almost to herself, "but I needed the permanence. The permanence of a decision. The permanence of this moment." Ruiz watches her for a long moment, her eyes softening with something like respect. Then she nods, a quiet agreement passing between them, unspoken but understood. "You'll get through it, Maggie. You always do." Maggie doesn't say anything else. The words aren't necessary. She's been through storms before. Louder, harsher ones. This, she can handle. She doesn't need to scream, to fight back with more than what's already been done. The battle is over. She's won, and she's kept her dignity intact. Ruiz gives her one last look before turning to leave. "If you need anything, you know where to find me." Maggie watches her go, then turns back to the house. It's quiet again, but this time it doesn't feel lonely. It feels like peace. Her gaze lingers on the gleaming Lexus, the new plate a quiet defiance. Dignity. It's more than just the car, more than just the plate. It's the life Maggie is building now. Strong, steady, unbroken. It's a life that no one can take from her. The world will move on. It always does. But Maggie? Maggie will always stand tall. The courtroom smells like paper and cold stone, the kind of sterile, impersonal atmosphere that can make anyone feel small. Maggie sits in the front row, her hands folded neatly in her lap, eyes straight ahead. The sensation of waiting has become familiar, like the calm before the storm. But Maggie doesn't flinch. Not anymore. She's prepared for this moment. She's been preparing for it ever since Chloe's counterclaim. Beth Nolan, her pro bono lawyer, stands confidently beside her at the plaintiff's table, the intensity in her eyes matching the quiet steel Maggie has carried with her through this ordeal. Today, they're not just fighting for restitution. Today, they're fighting to ensure that Chloe understands the consequences of her actions, real consequences, the kind that can't be brushed off with a smile or a carefully crafted Instagram post. Beth rises to address the judge, her voice firm but respectful. Your Honor, we are seeking civil damages for defamation based on the false claims made by Ms. Sloan in her counterclaim, which we believe were made with malicious intent and without any factual basis. Maggie sits back, watching the proceedings unfold. But it's not the legal jargon that holds her focus. It's the way Chloe, sitting across the room, seems to shrink with every word. The confident young woman who had once towered over Maggie is nowhere to be seen. The mask has cracked, and Chloe's true face is beginning to show. The facade of perfection, the influencer carefully constructed for the public eye, is starting to collapse under the weight of its own lies. Maggie doesn't feel satisfaction, though. Not yet. She just feels certain. This is what Chloe deserves. This is what happens when you take someone's dignity and try to twist it into something ugly. The judge calls for financial disclosures as part of the process, and a ripple of murmurs runs through the courtroom. Chloe's attorney shifts uncomfortably, but Maggie doesn't care about the lawyer's discomfort. She's more concerned with the truth that's about to come out. The numbers begin to pile up: debts, loans, unpaid bills, and Maggie watches Chloe's face slowly drain of color as the court clerk reads them aloud. There are no carefully edited photos or curated captions to save her now. The debts are real, tangible, and they're as much a part of Chloe's downfall as the vandalism. A sinking feeling stirs inside Maggie, but it's not out of sympathy. It's just the weight of understanding. Chloe's business, her brand, everything she'd built, it's all crumbling. And now, Maggie owns a piece of it. According to the financial disclosures, the judge continues, the defendant is in severe debt and has no liquid assets to pay the required restitution. Beth leans forward, her expression hardening. Given these findings, we request that the court place a lien on Missy Sloan's business assets to cover the damages. Maggie's gaze flicks to Chloe, who has gone still in her seat, staring down at the floor as if she's trying to disappear into it. Her fingers curl into the arms of her chair, but she doesn't say anything. She can't. Not with everything unraveling in front of her. Maggie's pulse steadies. The sentence is not just legal, it's poetic. Chloe will never be able to pay Maggie back in cash, but in the end, she'll pay in consequence. And that, Maggie knows, will hurt more. The judge nods, issuing a brief order to finalize the lien and restitution. Chloe's attorney stands, his face flushed, and Maggie watches as he exchanges a few quiet words with his client. No one else speaks as the judge adjourns the session, but Maggie knows the courtroom has shifted. This time, the balance of power has tipped entirely in her favor. As Maggie gathers her things, she hears Ryan's voice, softer than it was before. He's standing near the exit, his shoulders slumped, his face twisted with a mixture of frustration and defeat. Maggie's heart sinks again, but this time it feels different. This is the man she raised, the son who never quite understood the line between loyalty and enabling, between love and weakness. He's always wanted to protect Chloe. Now he's left watching her lose everything. "Mom," Ryan says quietly, taking a step toward her. "Please, let's just end this. Chloe's been through enough. She's suffering." Maggie doesn't look up. She doesn't need to. Her gaze is already fixed on the next step, the path forward. This is the moment where she teaches Ryan something he should have learned a long time ago. "I'm teaching her what you never learned, Ryan," she says, her voice steady, unyielding. "I'm teaching her that actions have consequences." Ryan doesn't say anything. He doesn't need to. The silence between them speaks louder than any argument ever could. Maggie knows this is the end of their relationship, or at least the end of what it was before. Ryan's loyalty, his misguided attempts to protect Chloe at all costs, has drawn a line between them that can never be crossed again. Maggie walks out of the courtroom, the finality of the day settling on her shoulders like a weight, but not a burden. It's the weight of justice, of doing the right thing, of finally taking control of a life that had slipped through her fingers for far too long. She steps out into the hallway, the world outside seeming smaller somehow. She stops for a moment, breathing in the cool air. The fight is far from over. But Maggie, she's already won. The world Chloe built has been steadily, surely, coming apart. The first sign of her unraveling is the silence on her social media. The posts have become sparse. The polished images she once curated now replaced by vague status updates and hastily taken selfies that no longer carry the same perfection. The influencer world, which had once adored her, is now turning its back. The sponsorships that were once a steady stream of income are drying up. Maggie watches as the public fallout from Chloe's defamation case snowballs. Sponsors are pulling out, and the deal offers that once flooded Chloe's inbox are now nothing but a distant memory. Brands post curt statements about parting ways, citing unforeseen circumstances. But Maggie knows the truth. No one wants to be associated with someone whose image has crumbled into disgrace. The videos Chloe once posted, boasting about lavish vacations and sponsored products, now seem embarrassing, like relics of a different, more naive time. The influencer empire Chloe had so carefully constructed is now on the verge of collapse. It isn't long before Chloe's car is repossessed, the sleek Lexus that Maggie had once seen as a symbol of the life she could never have. It sits there, parked in front of Chloe's house one morning, before the tow truck pulls up. Chloe watches from the front step, her arms crossed, face pale. She doesn't move, doesn't speak. Maggie doesn't need to be there to witness it. She already knows the look of defeat. By the time Chloe's house is foreclosed, Maggie is far away, lost in the quiet of her own thoughts. She doesn't care about the house. It's the brand, the facade, that's truly fallen. Chloe has nowhere to turn now. Her empire is crumbling, piece by piece, each layer of her life falling away like sand slipping through a sieve. And Maggie? Maggie is done watching from the sidelines. Maggie's phone buzzes, pulling her from her thoughts. It's a message from Officer Ruiz. "Nice move?" Maggie reads the words and smiles quietly, the faintest trace of satisfaction curling at the edges of her lips. She opens the drawer where she keeps her personal documents and pulls out a thick envelope, its contents carefully arranged. Inside, there's a tip for a local charity auction. It's a small but deliberate gesture, a gently used diamond bracelet, the same one Chloe had been wearing in the footage, the one she'd flaunted so carelessly. Maggie can't help but find a certain poetic justice in the fact that it's now being sold to benefit a domestic violence shelter. A final blow to the persona Chloe had built, and a quiet way of reclaiming what was taken from Maggie. Maggie doesn't wait for any acknowledgement. She doesn't need it. Her decision is already final. The transaction is made, the money will go to a cause that matters, and Chloe will never see that bracelet again. As the weeks drag on, Maggie watches Chloe's social media become a crumbling monument. The videos and posts stop altogether, replaced by silence. No more updates on her so-called glamorous life. No more products to push. No more sponsored content to clutter the feed. Chloe is lost in the void now, her own emptiness swallowing her. Maggie hears about it through the grapevine. Chloe is considering a comeback, trying to make amends, trying to pick up the pieces of her shattered image. But Maggie doesn't care about Chloe's attempts at redemption. That's not her concern anymore. Maggie steps outside one evening, the sky heavy with the promise of rain. The air feels thick, as if the earth itself is holding its breath, waiting for the storm to break. She stands in the driveway, looking at the gleaming Lexus, now parked in its place in front of her house. The car looks new, reborn even, its fresh paint glistening in the fading sunlight. The new license plate, Dignity, stands as a quiet testament to her journey. Then, the first drop hits. At first, it's just one, then another. Then, the sky opens, and the rain begins to pour, heavy and relentless, washing everything clean. Maggie watches the droplets splash against the driveway, the earth drinking in the rain like it's been thirsty for too long. She tilts her head back, feeling the coolness on her face. It's a moment of release, of finality. The storm has arrived, and with it, a quiet sense of relief. Her phone buzzes again. This time, it's another message from Ruiz. It's over, for now. But I'm sure you knew that. Maggie smiles, a small, satisfied smile that doesn't reach her eyes. She types back. Restitution looks different for everyone. The rain falls harder now, soaking her to the bone, but she doesn't move. She stands there, feeling the weight of it, the quiet comfort of knowing she's done what was necessary. The world can change around her, but she will remain steady, unbroken. The storm is far from over. But Maggie? Maggie is already ready for what comes next. And in the quiet aftermath of the rain, she feels something she hasn't in a long time. Peace. The knock on the door is loud, angry. Maggie hears it through the soft hum of the rain outside, the storm still pounding relentlessly against the windows. Her heart beats once, then settles back into its slow rhythm. She already knows who it is. She stands and walks slowly to the door, the quiet steps muffled by the thick carpet. When she opens it, Ryan is standing there, his posture tense, his face flushed with a mix of frustration and disbelief. He's not the same man who walked out of the courtroom, not the same man who had begged her to drop the charges. There's something darker in his eyes now, a quiet rage that churns just beneath the surface. Maggie, he says, his voice tight, nearly trembling. What the hell is this? He thrusts a piece of paper in her direction. An eviction notice. Maggie's eviction notice. The one that states he's been served for not paying rent, for months of missed payments. Her property, her rental unit, where she had once given Ryan a place to stay after his failed marriage, now being taken back from him. Maggie doesn't flinch. She doesn't say anything at first. Instead, she takes the paper from his hand, slowly and deliberately, as if savoring the moment of silent defiance. "You think this is how it's supposed to go, Ryan?" she asks softly, her voice low, calm, but filled with a quiet authority. Ryan's jaw clenches as he steps inside, pushing past her. His anger is palpable now. "You can't just do this. You're my mother. You're supposed to help me. We're family, he shouts, the words thick with bitterness, his eyes burning with a betrayal that matches his actions. Maggie remains unfazed, standing tall, every inch of her posture firm with the finality of what has come to pass. Family? She repeats, the word hanging between them like a bitter taste. Family doesn't call the cops on each other, Ryan. Family doesn't take sides when cruelty is involved. Ryan's face twists in confusion, frustration, and hurt. His hands are trembling as he looks around, pacing the room. I didn't ask for this. I didn't want to get caught up in your mess with Chloe. I didn't know it would go this far. His voice cracks as the weight of his own guilt presses down on him. I just wanted things to go back to normal. Normal? Maggie asks, her eyes narrowing. You wanted things to go back to the way they were? You wanted to keep protecting the woman who humiliated me? Who destroyed everything? Ryan's face crumbles, his anger spilling over into something more vulnerable. He raises his voice, desperation in his tone. She's my wife. I tried to fix things. She was wrong, okay? But I didn't think it would end like this. Don't you get it? You've ruined everything. I've lost everything. Maggie doesn't look away, doesn't waver. She's not angry anymore. The anger left her long ago. Now it's just a quiet certainty, the knowledge that there's nothing left to repair, not between them. I didn't ruin anything, she says slowly, her voice almost a whisper. You ruined it, Ryan. You sided with cruelty. And now, you live with the cost of that choice. She takes a step back, then reaches into the drawer by the door, pulling out a thick envelope she's been holding onto for days. She hands it to him without a word. He looks at her, confused, but he opens it anyway. Inside is a small, framed photo of a much younger Ryan, his face shining with innocence, untainted by the mess he's created. A childhood photo, the kind that most parents keep tucked away in drawers or albums. Along with it is a check for $1. Just one. Ryan's hand trembles as he takes the photo and the check. He doesn't understand at first. He flips the check over, his gaze flicking between the photo and the dollar, trying to piece together the meaning of it all. His confusion morphs into anger again as he looks up at her. This is what you're giving me? A picture of me when I was a kid and a goddamn dollar? His voice is a guttural shout, his anger returning full force. This is your answer? You're throwing me out, and this is how you pay me back? Maggie's expression doesn't change. She remains calm, the quiet strength of her conviction rooted deep within her. That's what your loyalty is worth now, Ryan. $1. That's the price of your betrayal. Ryan's face goes pale as the words hit him. He opens his mouth to argue, to say something more, but his words die in his throat. He stands there, still holding the photo and the check, as if trying to grasp at something. Some explanation, some way to justify his choices. But there's nothing left to justify. Not anymore. He breaks down then. His shoulders slump, his chest heaving as the reality sinks in. His face crumples. The weight of his guilt finally too much to bear. He sinks into the nearest chair, his hands covering his face. Maggie watches him, but she doesn't reach out. She doesn't comfort him. This is his reckoning. He has to face it alone. I'm sorry, Mom, he whispers, his voice breaking, but Maggie doesn't answer. She can't. Not anymore. The silence that falls between them is heavy. Ryan sits there, sobbing softly, but Maggie remains unmoved. She stands up straight, walking slowly toward the door, the finality of this moment settling over her like a cloak. When she reaches the door, she pauses and turns to look at him one last time. You'll never come back from this, she says quietly, her voice steady. You've chosen your side. Now you have to live with it. Ryan doesn't look up. He doesn't speak again. He's lost everything, and there's nothing left to say. As Maggie steps out of the room, the thunder rolls outside, a distant echo to the storm that's been building for years. But Maggie? She's already walked through it. She's already weathered the worst of it. And now, she walks away. Months have passed since the storm, and now Maggie's life is a study in calm. The world feels quieter, softer, like the air after a rainstorm when everything is washed clean. The changes are subtle but profound. Her Lexus gleams in the driveway, the once scratched door now flawless under the bright morning sun. The fresh coat of paint has held up, its new license plate, Dignity, still as bold as the day it was installed. Maggie stands in front of it, running a finger lightly across the smooth surface. The car is no longer a symbol of her humiliation. It is a mark of her transformation. The car is perfect now, as if nothing ever happened. But Maggie knows better. The scars that shaped her remain, hidden beneath the surface, polished into something strong, something unbreakable. She's settled into a new rhythm. The house is calm, almost peaceful now, and it suits her. She no longer feels the need to fill the silence. It's no longer a void. It's a space where she can breathe. It's where she found her strength, piece by piece, after everything fell apart. Maggie spends her days at the local community legal aid center, offering pro bono advice to young women who need it. It's a small, unassuming office tucked away on a quiet street, but it's become her anchor, her place to give back. She helps women protect their assets, their rights, and most importantly, their boundaries. She teaches them how to stand firm, how to fight back when life tries to knock them down. She's earned her peace, but she hasn't forgotten how it was won. Maggie sits at her desk one afternoon, sorting through a stack of case files when she hears the familiar knock at the door. She looks up, expecting one of the clients, but it's Officer Ruiz, standing in the doorway with a warm smile. "No more drama?" Ruiz asks, her tone light, her eyes carrying the quiet understanding that only someone who's been through the storm can offer. Maggie chuckles, a sound that feels foreign to her at first, but then familiar, like a long-lost friend. "Just better lighting," she jokes, motioning to the bright, well-lit office. There's a calmness in Ruiz's presence, a sense of reassurance that Maggie has come to appreciate over the past few months. Ruiz steps into the office, pulling up a chair across from Maggie's desk. "You've been keeping busy, huh?" she says, looking around at the neatly organized space. Maggie nods, a small smile playing on her lips. "I've had time to reflect," she says, "to make sure I'm using my time the right way." They sit in a comfortable silence for a moment, the weight of shared history hanging lightly between them. Maggie knows Ruiz understands. It's not just about winning the case. It's about something deeper, something that goes beyond the courtroom. It's about healing, rebuilding, and taking back control of a life that had been slipping through her fingers. "I've been thinking about mentoring," Maggie says, her voice quieter now. "Not just helping women with legal stuff, but showing them how to protect their hearts, their boundaries, to keep themselves safe from people who would take advantage." Ruiz nods, her expression softening. "Sounds like you've found your calling." Maggie smiles at the thought. It feels right, like the final piece of the puzzle she didn't know was missing. She's helping others build the strength she's had to learn the hard way. She stands up and walks over to the window, looking out at the neighborhood that has watched her transform over the months. It's still quiet out there, but there's a sense of peace now. The tension has left her life, replaced with something steadier, more permanent. Maggie returns to the desk and picks up the framed photo of her son, Ryan, that she keeps on the corner. It's a picture of him as a child, full of promise and innocence, the kind of boy she once believed would always understand the value of loyalty, of family, the one who would stand by her no matter what. She lets the photo fall back onto the desk with a quiet sigh. That chapter of her life has closed, and the story she's writing now is hers alone. She moves to the car again, her hand resting on the smooth paint. She can feel the weight of the journey she's been through, but it doesn't feel like a burden. It feels like strength. It feels like power. It feels like dignity. The car shines in the sunlight, a small testament to everything she's endured. Maggie smiles, tracing her fingers over the paint once more. Some scars polish better than others, she whispers to herself, a quiet truth she's finally ready to accept. The world continues to move outside the window, but Maggie has found her place within it. The storm has passed. The rain has stopped. The calm has arrived. And now, it's her turn to walk forward, steady, unbroken, and ready for whatever comes next. The sun is low on the horizon, casting long shadows across the quiet suburban street. The golden light bathes Maggie's front yard in a warm, soft glow. The neighborhood, once filled with the harsh buzz of gossip and judgment, now seems distant. The manicured lawns stretch out in perfect rows, their symmetry almost too perfect. But to Maggie, they feel like a calm reflection of her own life, a life slowly rebuilding, quietly solidifying. Maggie sits on her porch, a mug of tea cradled in her hands, the cool evening air brushing against her skin. She watches as the last remnants of the day slip away, the sky shifting from pale gold to deep orange, then to purple and indigo. It's peaceful now, the world around her so much quieter than it used to be. The storm has passed, and for the first time in a long while, Maggie feels unburdened, serene, ready for whatever the next chapter may bring. From the corner of her eye, she notices movement. A rusted sedan turning the corner, its tires squeaking against the pavement. Chloe's car. The same model she used to drive, but now old, beaten down by time and neglect. Chloe's image still looms in Maggie's memory, but it's faded now, like a portrait that's lost its vibrancy, only traces of its former self left behind. Chloe doesn't slow as she drives past Maggie's driveway. Her eyes flick toward the house, the gleaming Lexus in the driveway, the fresh coat of paint still shining in the dying light. For just a moment, their gazes meet, but Chloe doesn't stop. She looks away, the briefest flicker of regret crossing her face before she focuses on the road ahead, avoiding the present by looking into the future, into the unknown. Maggie watches her go, a soft exhale escaping her lips. There's no anger in her, no bitterness, just a quiet knowing. Chloe has made her choices, and Maggie has made hers. The paths have diverged. No words are necessary. Not anymore. As the rusted sedan fades into the distance, Maggie hears a voice from behind her. Officer Ruiz, dressed in plain clothes now but still carrying the same quiet confidence, walks up the driveway with a friendly smile. "Happy Mother's Day, Mrs. Sloan," Ruiz calls out with a hint of warmth in her voice, as if this moment, this simple gesture, means something more than just a greeting. It's recognition. It's respect. Maggie turns her head, meeting Ruiz's eyes. There's a faint smile on Maggie's face, but it doesn't reach her eyes, not in the way it once would have. Instead, there's a calm, deep satisfaction in her expression. "This year, I earned it," Maggie says softly, the words carrying a weight that feels right, a finality, a reward for everything she's done, for the battles she's fought and won, for the dignity she's reclaimed. Ruiz steps closer, her hands tucked into her pockets, but her smile doesn't fade. She knows Maggie's journey, understands it in a way that others cannot. And she knows, without needing to say it aloud, that Maggie's victory is complete. Without another word, Ruiz turns and walks toward her own car, leaving Maggie alone once again on the porch. But this time, Maggie doesn't feel alone. She's surrounded by the stillness of her choices, the strength of the life she's rebuilt. The world continues on, but Maggie is finally at peace with her place in it. Maggie's gaze shifts to the driveway, her eyes settling on the Lexus. She rises from the porch, walking slowly to the car, running a hand across its smooth surface, her fingers tracing the curves of the metal. The car is a symbol now, a symbol of her journey, her power, her transformation. She pauses for a moment, looking at the garage door, its surface plain and unremarkable. Then, without hesitation, she presses the button on the remote, and the door begins to slide shut with a soft hum. The final click echoes through the quiet street, the sound of closure, of a chapter ending. As the garage door locks into place, Maggie turns away and walks back to the porch. She takes one last look at the empty road. Knowing that the past is truly behind her now, the fight is over. The only thing left is her peace. She stops for a moment, standing still, her gaze steady. She carved my car to mark her power, Maggie whispers to herself, a quiet declaration in the fading light. I carved her name into the record instead. The storm may be over, but Maggie has already moved on. And in the end, it's not about the scars that were left behind. It's about how they were transformed. The final line of her story is clear now. It's one of quiet victory. Not just over Chloe, but over everything that had once tried to break her. Maggie smiles to herself, the last vestiges of the storm passing behind her, her future now unfolding with the promise of strength, peace, and a life well earned.